Hey y'all, we have got a ton of activity going on the Appalachian Trail this week. We got 2020 folks out there, 2021 folks out there. We got all kind of trail news, registrations. We got to go ahead and get into it because I know y'all got other places to be besides right here listening to me. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So what's going on with the 2020 hikers? Well, 2020 we've got a new one, Frosty, and he is Sobo from New Hampshire to Georgia. So he's doing a Sobo flip-flop. He's doing New Hampshire to Georgia, and then he's doing, once he gets to Georgia, he's flipping back up to New Hampshire and going to fish at Big K. Well, he has finished the shanties, and he is now into Waynesboro. So y'all know all the winter weather we've had over the past week or so up and down the Atlantic coast seaboard. Got a dump last night as well, so pretty much everything on the trail got some snow from Georgia to Maine. And so you can just imagine Virginia, a lot of folks getting snow up there in Virginia. Crash Bash and Whole Foods, they should be getting done with their Sobo trip at Springer sometime between now and the 13th. So we've been tracking them the whole time, and they are in their last state now. They are heading in Georgia, and they're on their way to Springer. So it's going to be exciting to see them finish. And Mayo and Nat Geo, their last known was in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park at mile 2000, which is in the southern section of the park. So by now they should be well on their way to the knock, and we should be getting an update from them pretty soon on that. So those are all the 2020 folks that we're tracking right now. Most of those folks hopefully will be finishing up here real soon. What's going on with 2021? A slew of stuff's going on with them too. So to begin with, Will, he has gotten off the trail, also known as Boxcar Willie. Will, you may, has been putting out some videos. A lot of people are familiar with who Will is. I call him by his trail name, Boxcar Willie, or just Boxcar. So Boxcar, of course, he had the incident down at the Fontana Hilton with an individual, and then he got on into the Smokies, and he spent, I can't remember, he's went back and forth. He made the trip down to Gatlinburg from the Newfound Gap restroom 3 times. So he'd spent several nights there to begin with. He hiked down to Gatlinburg. Then I think he did eventually catch a plow part of the way. So he may not have hiked the whole way, but he started out, he knew he was going to have to hike 15 miles. Then he walked back up to the restrooms up there, spent another night, tried to make his way out on the northbound, and had to turn back because of snow drifts and such. Came back and decided that he had gotten enough out of the Appalachian Trail, and so Will is off the trail and he is back home. So don't know if he's coming back or not. Know a lot of you folks thought a lot of him. No, I did, and enjoyed watching his videos. Just his honest, how he would pour his soul out to you and tell you, be very honest what he was going through at that time, and we always like to see that. So doesn't matter who you are, we always enjoy watching those kind of videos and stuff. And so whether you're new or a new hiker to the AT or an old hiker, so get on Will's videos, particularly his last one, and let him know you're still cheering for him, and let him know you'd like to see him come back to the trail. And Will, if you see this, don't pay a lick of attention to all them trolls out there. That's part of being on YouTube. The best thing you can do with those trolls is just block them. All right, so what else is going on? Well, one of the things is I also want to thank, as far as Will's regards, Boxcar's regards, I want to thank the Appalachian Trail hiker community for reaching out to me to reach out to Will, since Will just had his YouTube video, and people kind of want to keep stuff private. I did have means of getting in touch with Will, but a ton of y'all reached out to me and offered rides for Will, offered to pay for hostels for him, even had somebody offer to pick him up, bring him into Asheville, stay in their condo for several days to get his, to wait till the Smokies cleared and to get the incident that happened at the shelter out of his head, and just for him to kind of reboot and get back on the trail. So appreciate that very much, and I just that just really warms my heart to see the hiker community rally around people like that. So thank you very much for that. We also had a lady who, once she saw Will's report, Will indicated that he kind of got moved, kind of jerked around, or just when it came to law enforcement, him reporting it, he kind of felt like he just got shifted from one law enforcement agency to the next, and nobody wound up showing up when they should have. And so this lady actually knew a ranger there in the Smokies, and she went to that ranger station and had a face-to-face discussion with them to let them know what was going on. So thank you again for that. I'm sure that took a lot of time out for her. Being in the Smokies is, there's no easy way to get there as far as it being right around the corner. That had to take her hours. So thanks again to the hiker community for going above and beyond and just doing things to help each other. So Scott Morris, he also canceled his trip, though. He did not get started, but he did have to cancel it due to some health problems. He hopes to get those worked out and be back on next year. The Suttons, they made it into the Smokies, but they had to turn back because of all the drifts, and the drifts were up chest high or above for Harvey. And so Harvey's their 4 or 5 year old, I'm not sure, but that is their son that is with them. And so, you can imagine a 4 or 5 year old, a drift 4 foot high, is going to be, way too much for him to navigate. And that would really be more than most of us would want to navigate. So they turned back, went and got him a hotel, and after almost making it to Klingman's Dome, and we have not seen a report yet from them about if they got back in the Smokies or if they're going around. Now quicksand, and everybody knows quicksand. Quicksand is coming up into the Fontana area, which is right there on the doorstep of the Smokies. And so he's got some decisions to make. He's got some plans to make about whether he's going to try to make it through. There have been some people that are making it through, but you just never know about if conditions are going to get worse. So he does have a plan involved, and I'm not going to steal his thunder. I'll let you go to his channel and find out what his plan is, but this ain't Quicksand's first rodeo. This is his 3rd rodeo, if I got my count right. And so he's thinking he's gonna make some good decisions. Mr. Freeze, he's in Hiawassee out of Unicoi Gap. He's with Evergreen, who picked up on the trail, and they went in Hiawassee, going to be watching the Super Bowl for a 0 and getting back on the trail at Unicoi Gap tomorrow. Subman, Suds, Big Cypress, and Moonbeam, they are back home for a few days, waiting on some of this snow to clear, and I believe they left from the Knock, and so the Knock is the Knock to the Fontana to the Smokies. So they are actually between the Knock and Fontana, so they don't have too many more days, and they would be in the Smokies. So they went back to get some gear straightened out, get them a hot shower and 3 hots in a cot, and they are going to get back out on the trail here real soon. Farrell, he's a new one that started this week. He's past Woody Gap, and he said there was about 12 folks at the Woods Hole shelter, and some were tenting and some were in the shelter. Of course, you're not supposed to be staying in the shelter, but even if you were, the shelter would only hold 12. And he is doing what I have referred to as a bobo. So he is moving, moving north. However, he is using 2 cars. So he takes one car north to or he takes one car, he leaves one car south, drives one car north, then he hikes Sobo back to the other car, gets in that car, flips over the next car, and then hikes back south again. So he's heading Nobo, but he's hiking Sobo. So I call that a bobo because he's going both ways bound. So anyway, that's while that is not typical, it's not necessarily unique. He's not the first one to do that. We had several do that in 2019 that I was aware of. So be interesting to see how that continues. He has been updating quite a bit. So he is somebody that we're tracking. He's down on our list that can be found down below, the link to that Google spreadsheet down there. So I'd encourage you to go down there and look for him and everybody that we're tracking so far. Blowtorch, he got back on after helping rescue a lady off the mountain there at Springer, and he has picked up a hiker, Colton. Colton has a dog with him. I believe the dog's name is Rainey, and they have made it to Neil Gap, and they stayed there at the Blood Mountain Cabins. Colton has gone on. Colton and Rainey have gone on. I believe that Blowtorch is going to getting some gear straightened out, and then he'll be following up behind them. Woody and Buzz Lightyear, they are our, Woody and I guess he just calls himself Buzz, they are our two calendar year Triple Crowners, and they are somewhere north of the pre-shelter in the middle of Virginia, and they'll be coming into the shanties in the next few days. And then we also picked up another calendar year Triple Crowner, and that is Horsepower, and he is at the quarter way mark, so he is averaging somewhere around 23 to 25 miles a day. He hikes into the night. He has not taken any zeros since he left Springer. So that's how he's been able to get down there. And his hike, he is hiking to raise awareness for suicide prevention. And so if you go to his link down in our spreadsheet and you take your cursor and go over, page over, you'll see his link to that. To where you can go and make a donation. So he's trying to raise, I believe it's $8,000 for that, and I think he's around 15 or 16 now. So please go and support that. I think that's a very worthy cause. Mental illness on the trail is something that people just don't support enough. There's not enough talk about that. There's not enough talk about suicide prevention from THru hikers. We lose a THru hiker at least one a year, sometimes two a year, to suicide. And so, you know, a lot of that is post-trail depression, and some of them are they had their way on the trail, but they came back and they can't find their way again, and they don't have the resources to get back on the trail. And so I don't know what that's like personally, but that is something that's tough to deal with. And so certainly we need to be supporting anything that deals with that, anything that supports somebody who's in that predicament. Our crazy 2021 Sobo folks that have already started Greenleaf and Apple Pie, they are done with the whites, and I tell you what the heck, I'm just going to let them tell you how things are going and what they're doing. Go ahead, Greenleaf and Apple Pie.
Want to press yes?
You're on.
All right.
Hi. Today we're finishing up the whites in about 3 more hours. We spent about 10 days here on the whites. We love the whites. It's our home. Done about 7% of the trail. We have seen the rest of the trail in winter conditions before. We don't need to move again. We want to keep going, progressing through the rest of New Hampshire, which is about a few more days, then on to Vermont.
So we got Glencliff to Hanover left, and then it's on to Vermont. So we'll regroup for maybe a couple days, and we're continuing southbound.
We love the whites. We'll miss them dearly and all our friends.
Yes.
We'll be back in about 4 or 5 months, though, after the AT's done.
All right. Pie and Greenleaf out.
Hey, that is great. So you can look behind them and you can see that they are thick in the snow up there. So looking forward to their updates. They are having a good time, and they are folks that are used to hiking. They're from that area. I believe they're from New Hampshire, and they are used to hiking in that snow. So they are very well prepared, very well conditioned to do that. Not so much. He should be at Dix Creek Gap area any day now. Andrew should be coming into North Carolina any day. And some folks we got that are new on the trail this week: Lost, Braveheart, she made it to Neil Gap. Crusoe and Night Train, they made it to Neil Gap, and congrats to Crusoe. He is going to be a grandfather for the second time around, so that's awesome. And then also Tramp Stamp, he left today, and he was number 77 from the registration book at Amicalola Falls State Park. So we got some starts coming up this week. Want you to be aware of, want you to go and support them. Connor Mahoney, Jenny, Julian C., Miguel Santiago, Underdog, maybe. I think I put him out as last week, but I was incorrect about that. So I think he's starting this week. We'll know when he starts because he'll start posting pretty quickly. Nadia Fanay, Thinker, Hugh Jack, Slow-Mo, and Scatterbrain are all folks on the list that you can go and get their information, get their social media links, and support them. So if you are a THru hiker and you're not on that list, and right now we've got almost 300, somewhere around 296 when I last checked on that list. If you're not on it and you want to be, this is a place where folks can go. The list is a support list. Folks can go there, find your social media link, and just go and support you with comments. Sometimes they even support you with trail magic. So, but in any case, if you want people to know you're on the trail and want them to comment on you and just help you along, I know that means a lot to some folks. That is the list that you want to be on. So If you'll go down below, you'll see a link to a form. In that form, you click on that and it has the information. You fill that out and you will automatically populate yourself to that list. So what is going on with the Appalachian Trail registrations list? Well, in a word, the trail is slammed. There is a ton of folks this year, and it is increasing every single week. NOBO last week we had 2,296, and this week we got 2,381. Flip-floppers registered last week we had 109. This week we got 122. Subo last week we got 97, and this week we've got 110. So the total from last week was 2,502, and we're up 111 hikers for a total of 2,613 registered so far. Now last year, this time, my records show we had 1,760, which is a increase from last year of 853 hikers. So that's up 46%. Now I read where the ATC says we're up twice as many people are registering. My information does not concur with that, although, you know, if we're up twice as much, it would have to be 100%. But in this case, we're up almost half as much as we were, 46%, but that's still a huge increase. Each year, we typically increase at least 33%, except for, I believe it flatlined and stayed pretty much at the same 2017, 18, and 19. We don't know about 2020 because records have been purged or not available publicly since the pandemic, and they took down all the registration information. But that's still a huge jump in folks that are out there on the trail. So 88 people had stepped off from Amicalola Falls State Park and signed the book this time last year. Well, Tramp Stamp told me that he was number 77. Now that was yesterday, but I don't think we've had 11 people step off from yesterday. So I can't really account for why we've got registrations are up online as far as the ATC registrations, and actually people signing up for my list is way up. That's increased as well. That's probably increased about the same, about 33 to 40% at least. So I think what's going on there though is there's not as many people are checking in down in Amicalola because quite frankly, people are ticked off at the ATC, and a lot of people were just saying, I'm not going to register. And then also we had the issue with what I put out last week about registrations, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But I did want to mention before we got to that the trail is maxed out for 42 days this week, and that's up from 31 days last week. So we got 42 days above the red line from February 27th to April 8th. So all of March is maxed out. So the trail, in a word, is slammed. Now, what was a really cool thing I was telling you about registration? So last week we reported that the ATC had changed the way they were doing the registrations online. They had fixed the system to where if the trail was maxed out, you could not register for that day. Previously, before then, you could register for that day. And we know that because registrations go above 38. They've set the cap at 38 hikers is what they're saying is the trail is maxed out for that. And so previously we had people in the 40s. So we know there was a capability there, but then they took that capability away, and Corner had told me that, and I verified that myself and got the same error message that everybody else was getting. So like we did with the bag tags, when we put out the bag tag videos and you guys made all these comments and really inundated the ATC with stuff, even though it was maybe through this channel, they saw that, and so they put out a video the following week about bag tags. Well, after the video last week and all y'all's comments, they've put out some new information about what they're doing about the registration. So we talked last week about how they were getting bad data if they weren't allowing that to happen because people were going to hike anyway, they just wouldn't register. So now what they have decided is that they are going to, in a few days, they're going to switch that system back to the way it was so that you can register on days that are full. And they're saying the reason they started was to try and control who went when, but then in seeing that they was just not getting the proper data. They decided to lift that to get better data. Unfortunately, I feel like the damage may be done now since they did that. People are, ticked off, and so I don't know that there's, I don't know that they're going to go back and doing it the way they were. Some will, but a lot won't. They're just not going to register. They've already got that in their mind. So, the thing that the ATC doing of not having registrations open and then deciding they're going to open them and then limiting the registrations, or starting out not limiting them, then limiting them, and now not limiting them, and now they're taking away the hang, and of course they're taking away the hang tags. It just seems like to me that the top leadership at the ATC, who's in control of all this, and by that I mean the president, the CEO, they're just completely out of control in some type of death spiral up there. I don't know what's going through, why they can't decide on a course of action and then stick with it, a course of action that is works for the hiking community. That's what they're there for. I thought that in the trail, but in any case, that's what's going on up there. So leave some comments down below. I'd like to hear what you got to say about that. I think they're listening to us and they're watching the channel and they're seeing those comments, and so maybe we can affect some change through that. Mail drops and mail issues that I've encountered. So Rodney told me that he has had some problems with his drop boxes and his bounce boxes and the supplies that he sent forward. So he said his Franklin resupply box took 9 days to arrive in Franklin from Hershey, Pennsylvania. His Fontana Dam resupply box he sent overnight for a cost of $63, and it took 2 days to get there. And his resupply to Hot Springs, it took 7 days to get there from Pennsylvania. So come along, and when we did our trip a few trips ago, back in I guess it was the early fall, we went from Pennsylvania down into Virginia. We had sent some resupply boxes in there in the Harper's Ferry area, and they should have showed up, should have beat us there by 2 days, and they did not. Mine never showed up. He sent his next day, and it took 3 days to get there. Of course, everybody blames COVID for that, and that's kind of the catch-all phrase now. Oh, well, it's due to COVID. So whatever, but in any case, that is an issue, and you need to keep that in mind when you're sending resupply boxes, particularly a bounce box, which a bounce box is something that you may pick up in one town and send maybe a town or 2 towns on up the trail, because you don't need everything that's in the box, but you'll need it when you get to the next town. Well, if that next town is, just a few days away, that bounce box may not be there for you when you get there. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your resupply boxes and your bounce boxes. So the ATC guide, also known as AWOL's guide, finally showed up in my mail. That was my Christmas present, so I was glad to see it. Of course, this year it is supposed to be in living color. I'm kind of dating myself there. If you ever watched Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, it was in living color, and it came on after the Disney show came on. But anyhow, if you got your AWOL guide and it was in color, then you're in good shape. Mine came in black and white. So that's fine though, because it's been in black and white for years. But this year they decided to print it in color. There was a problem at the printer, and so not everybody's getting them in color. However, I also got a letter with mine that said that the printer had made the mistake, and they were reprinting them, and as soon as they got them reprinted, they would be sending me a new guide. I could keep that guide, and the new guide would be in color. So I think that's awesome for the AWOL folks. That is true customer service. So if you got yours originally in black and white, you get a BOGO now, buy one, get one, because now I'm gonna have 2, black and white and color, and either one of them will do for me. So I thought that was pretty awesome. One thing is that last week I was approved to be a ZPAX affiliate. So as an affiliate, what that means is I have an affiliate link down below, and you can go and click on that. And then if you're going to buy anything from ZPAX, I will get a very, very, very small percentage of that. That goes to support this channel in the way of, you know, photography gear or other gear I use to produce this channel. It does not go to hiking gear. So obviously I don't buy a lot of production gear because I don't make a lot from affiliate links, but every little bit helps. And so I'm not saying anything as far as you've got to go buy Z-Packs, they're the best. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that I use Z-Packs, and that if you're going to buy something from Z-Packs anyway, I'd greatly appreciate it if you'd use my affiliate link, and then I will just get a very, very tiny, tiny piece of that. So, and I also have Amazon links for some equipment that I use down below. Likewise, the same thing with Amazon. It is very, very tiny, but those are just some ways that you can support the channel. It doesn't cost you any more to buy through an affiliate link than if you bought it otherwise. And then Fresh Ground and Leapfrog Cafe, they are still in the middle of their fundraiser, still raising funds for his trip. So down below, I have a link there to Fresh Ground and his Facebook page, and if you'll go there, he's got all kind of ways that you can give to him through Venmo and check and just different ways. You can send him PayPal, you can give him a donation. That is one of the most worthy donations that you'll make on the trail this year, because he feeds through hikers all the way from Springer to Katahdin and back, and section hikers and day hikers, and anybody that comes up, Fresh Ground will feed them. That is part of his ministry, part of what he does to support the hiker community, and so we greatly appreciate that, and that is a very worthy cause to give to. Well, folks, I got one more thing that I want to talk about, but I'm not going to go into detail about it. I'll save that for next time because there's a lot of detail around it. But that is that the secret agreement between the Mountain Valley Pipeline Association, where they donated $19.5 million to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. So I didn't know that was a secret agreement until it came out, and had several subscribers send me a link to an article from the Corporate Crime Reporter, and basically the ATC or the president of the ATC refuses to give out the total agreement between the Mountain Valley Pipeline Association, what the ATC agreed to for that $19.5 million contribution. And before the contribution, the ATC was fighting that pipeline, and now that has, poof, now that fight's gone away. So what did they give up? Well, we'll talk about that next time on my next video. Look forward to sharing that with you and other news from the trail. That's all I got this week, folks. As always, appreciate you, and we'll see you out here.